Friends, I thought I was done broadcasting for the morning, but right when we signed off our last show, we got some unpleasant news. And no, I'm not talking about Bobby Portis being ruled out for 25 ball games. I am, of course, talking about Victor Wembanyama news. And I kind of hope you're not getting it from me, because this is going to be a severe shock when you see this tweet from Shams Charania that Victor Wembanyama is expected to miss the remainder, this has a typo in it, but I think it's too late, Shams, of the regular season with deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder. DVT is a blood clot. You guys might remember Brandon Ingram had one. Chris Bosh has had it. And there are different things that can result from this. The Spurs are obviously hoping that this is an isolated incident and that they can repair it, get the clot out, and that he'll make a full recovery for the start of next year. However, if this turns out to be some sort of congenital thing that caused the blood clot, then a career becomes in jeopardy. All I'm saying is, look, I don't know anything. I don't know how this is going to pan out. I just know that the news sucks. It's super terrible. And we don't know if this is going to be a Wemby's fine in August, September, October thing, or if this is going to be any kind of thing that could surface again. One of the issues, of course, is that if this is a deal that happens a second time, or if they figure out, like with Chris Bosh, this was a thing that he was sort of prone to, then it's something that has to be managed in a very different way than, oh, bad luck, let's move on to the next thing. But I'm not a doctor. I have no way of knowing. I'm just worried. I'm worried about a young superstar's health. I'm worried about a young superstar's career. And while I would love to just say it'll be fine once they get it fixed, we don't know. And so it makes me a little bit nervous. And as just a general fan of basketball, it makes me nervous and sad. There are, of course, fantasy ramifications, because anytime you take, a top 5 fantasy player out of basketball for the remainder of a year, and Victor is number 3 in 9 category leagues right now, he will finish his season on averages of 24.3 points per game, 3.1 threes, 11 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 1.1 steals, 3.8 blocks, far and away the leader in the NBA, 47.6% from the field, 83.6 at the free throw line, 3.2 turnovers per game. Again, he is the number 3 player in fantasy basketball at the time of his season concluding. Quickly here, because I hate that we have to do this right now, but we do. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. It's tough to do this kind of thing in the middle of a very sad, for a lot of reasons, fantasy show with the largest selection of odds, but they've been an incredible partner, so we got to do it. So thank you, BetOnline. Largest selection of odds on everything from NBA and college basketball, the NHL and UFC. BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every hat trick to three-pointer and back again, BetOnline covers you with odds, stats, and more on every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline. The game starts here. So what do? Well, there's a few things going on with the Spurs. And there are a few, I think, timelines to think about here as well. The names that I've seen just in the very immediate aftermath, because this news broke, again, only like a half an hour ago. In the very immediate aftermath, the names that are popping up are Jeremy Sochan, Harrison Barnes, Charles Bassey, Sandro Mamukelashvili, Bismack Biyombo is getting thrown into the mix as well. And it's because the Spurs are not fully healthy even without Victor Wembanyama. The backup center on the Spurs, when they're right, is Charles Bassey. Bassey's been out for about 2.5, 3 weeks with a sore knee. There was never really a full indicator given of the timeline on it, but like that's the diagnosis. To me, he's the guy that I think ends up being the big time winner here if he can get back in the mix. That's what I don't know, because we haven't, and because he's such a fringe level player when Wembanyama is healthy, we've all just sort of ignored the fact that the Spurs have given us no real indicator on what's going on with Bassey. He has the most translatable fantasy game of anybody that could see a bump up from this. There are a lot of guys, and we'll loop through all the names. Let's just go through them one by one. De'Aaron Fox is going to have a ton to do now, but he was already on fantasy teams, so he goes from playing, a top level, a very good fantasy game to an even better. Chris Paul's going to have to do more. Devin Vassell's going to have to do more. Like, go down the list of all the Spurs that are already on fantasy rosters. They're all going to have to do more. But again, I don't know what that changes for the average fantasy player. Because, like, Chris Paul's already on rosters. Great. You're going to hold. De'Aaron Fox, already on rosters. You're going to hold. Devin Vassell, already on rosters. You're going to hold. You're not adding Bismack Biyombo. I don't think you should add Sandro Mamukelashvili either. Although there's a possibility that he starts and sees, 18 to 20 minutes per ball game. I don't think it's a guarantee, and I don't think you need to get out in front of it. The names that I think are worth thinking about here, in addition to Charles Bassey, because again, I think the minute that he gets cleared to play, we've seen Bassey put up really good fantasy numbers in 19 minutes a game. That's really all he needs is 20. You can go through the game log for Bassey over the years and just pick out the ones where he's played 19 minutes or more. He's put up numbers. Hell, he put up numbers this year in 17 minutes a game. 12 ain't enough. 17, 18, 19, 20, anything over that is just pure gravy for him. But again, he's got to get back first. When we hear of Charles Bassey getting back in there, he becomes an immediate, very fast add. The other names that are healthy already are Stephon Castle, Harrison Barnes, Jeremy Sochan, and Keldon Johnson. And in my mind, the closest to value of any of those guys right now have been, at least lately, in the current iteration of the Spurs, the after we got De'Aaron Fox Spurs, Stephon Castle and Harrison Barnes have been closer to value than Keldon Johnson and Jeremy Sochan. The Spurs might not have a choice but to play Sochan at the 5 for some stretch of the ball game. I don't know how much, some. So he figures to see a bump up from, he got a dozen minutes in the Spurs' last game before the All-Star break. Keldon Johnson got 17 minutes in the Spurs' last game before the All-Star break. Those numbers are going to go up, but is it going to be enough? I personally think the answer is no. I don't think Sochan is going from 12 and a half minutes to 32. I think he probably gets into the 20s, maybe even the mid to high 20s. But throughout his young career, you've needed to have a specific punt build for 20 some odd minutes to be enough. Right now, Jeremy Sochan, he's averaging 26 minutes a game. This is for the entire season, including the bad recent games with the okay ones before that. He's at 26 minutes a game right now, and he's right around top 150. By the way, everybody's shots are going to get tougher on the team with Wemby not there. Sochan is averaging about 12 points and 7 rebounds in 26 minutes a game. That's pretty good. A steal, half a block. Good field goal percent at 54.5. Free throws not good, 72.2. I'm worried, as I look at the numbers here, that Sochan is going to end up taking more three-pointers, which him removing those from his game has been a really nice positive to his field goal percent number. But again, if he's playing center, then maybe it balances out. So hopefully the field goal percent stays high, but I can't guarantee it. Do the rebounds stay up there? Basically what we're seeing here is we need Sochan to probably play 29, 30 minutes a game to be a straight 9 category value. If you are punting specific stuff, that's how you can get him over the hump quicker. Like this year, for instance, and, what is he weakest at compared to his peers? Free throw and threes. If you're punting threes, Sochan moves right to the edge of the top 100. If you're punting free throws, Sochan moves to number 122 because he hasn't taken that many of them. So in my eyes, I think you probably need to have one of those two punt builds because likely he's going to be better than what he's been for the entire year because guys are just going to have more to do out there. But I don't think he's going to get to top 100 without a specific punt. So if you're punting threes, I think you take a chance on Sochan. If you're punting free throws, I think you could take a chance on Sochan as well. Frankly, if you're punting threes, you might have already had him on your team, even with these bad ball games lately. Because it's been a little ugly since the De'Aaron Fox trade. Not all the way ugly, but a little ugly. More up and down, more inconsistent. So I don't know. I'm not as super excited about Sochan as others in the mix. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Harrison Barnes might be a fantasy winner here. His fantasy game, however, doesn't translate particularly well at all because he's already playing 28 minutes a game and he's outside the top 175 because all he does is score points on a good field goal and decent free throw number. He doesn't really hit that many threes. He doesn't get rebounds. He doesn't pass. He doesn't steal. He doesn't block. Even more stuff for him probably only gets Harrison Barnes up to like strong streamer department or like possible punt defensive stats kind of play. So Barnes also probably gets a bump up, but also, again, probably not enough for it to be truly fantasy relevant. Keldon Johnson, they're going to need him to take shots. I don't know how many that's going to be. So again, I don't think you're talking about an actual all-the-time play from Keldon. But again, like if you want somebody that might get you a dozen points and a couple of rebounds, that's probably the guy. Shout out to my good friend Brandon Marcus, who on Twitter immediately was like, I think Stephon Castle is probably the big winner in this. Brandon, you might very well be right because the thing happening here, Castle's turned himself into this bench gunner lately, and that's probably not going to change. He's not going to move into the starting lineup. Like, the current starting lineup doesn't really have anybody that can play center. Harrison Barnes is the second biggest dude in the Spurs starting five. They simply can't go that small. I think they probably have to start an actual center because the rest of the starting five is so little. Like Barnes, Vassell, Fox, and Chris Paul. That is a diminutive starting four without a 8'9" center in the mix. Could you go Keldon Johnson at the 5 and just like that is intense small ball. When a lot of times in the NBA right now, teams go small, but they try to play like 5 wing size players. I don't know how you go basically 2 point guards, kind of like 2 shooting guards, small forwards, and a power forward. That's a real small starting 5. That to me is too small. So I do think that Biyombo or Sandro probably start the game, even if they only log like 12 minutes, just to sort of have a big body in there. But Castle, who's already taken a ton of shots a game, there's literally nothing that can stand in his way from continuing to take a crap ton of shots. And I'll admit, I wasn't super high on Castle, even in this bench gunner role, because it was such a limited fantasy profile of low percentage, just chuck. But now you can almost guarantee like 13 or more shots per game for him. And even if all you do is chuck, if you're chucking it 16 times a night and you're you're hitting some threes and you're just out there long enough to get a few assists, that's probably worth rostering. So I think my big change here to sort of put a bow on this whole Victor Wembanyama discussion is, obviously you can drop Wemby because he's out for the year. That's been done. Charles Bassey is my favorite play once he gets healthy. My second favorite winner is actually Stephon Castle because I think you're going to get better consistency. And the third one is a punt threes Jeremy Sochan. Those are my top 3 takeaways from this. And Twitter is yelling at me that I need to be more positive on Sandro. I don't think that he's going to play enough. I'm not going to be more positive on Sandro. Maybe he blows me away and like gets a consistent 25 minutes, but that would kind of surprise me a little bit because he literally wasn't touching the floor despite Bassey being out. They needed somebody to play backup center, and they were not using centers to do it. So I think maybe Sandro might start the ball game, and he might play like the first 7 minutes of each half. And maybe if he's playing really well, he might get like another 7 minutes in there. But it's hard for me to see him playing more than about 21, 22 minutes a game. Oh, well, that sucks. And if you watched our earlier show, you know that I was going to put an under in on my underdog fantasy card on Keldon Johnson. Thank goodness I didn't lock that in, because all of a sudden now, like, Keldon Johnson's probably going to have to do a whole lot more. Oopsies. Anyway, sign up today over at UnderdogFantasy.com using promo code OLDMAN, OLDMAN, or just click the link in the show description. Unlock up to $1,000 in deposit match bonus cash. Unlock all that good stuff and a free play on top of everything else. UnderdogFantasy.com. All you got to do is go higher or lower on 2 or more plays, projections on the board, and you could win cash. It's super fun. You don't need to understand DFS. You just need to have a feel for what players are going to do. Check it out immediately. Subscribe to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I legitimately did not have time today to do this extra show, but I'm doing it because the news is so damn big that now everything else on my day is going to run at least 20 minutes late. So please subscribe as a thank you for me ruining my day for this news. At Dan Bespers over on Twitter, Old Man Squad on Blue Sky Network. Follow at those spots. Again, it's Dan Bespers, DanBesbris on Twitter. That's the important one because that's where more of the news breaks. Again, please hit that like button. Please subscribe. It's how we grow this website. I need your help on that front. Crappy news day, to be sure. Crappy news day. So long, Victor Wembanyama, for this season. I really, really hope he's back for the next one. Shea and Nikola Jokic now. Last two standing at the top of the board. Damn, man. Anthony Davis down. He was the number 4 player in fantasy. Wemby was number 3. He's down. That sucks. AD's not out for the year, I guess, but it ain't that far off. Terrible news. I'm Dan. I got to get out of here before I sob on air. I'll see you guys later. Damn it.